Welcome back to Living Umpqua, everyone, the UAP UFO rabbit hole. I am so glad that you decided to come back. This episode, we're going to be talking about Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy. In 2017, To the Stars Academy and Tom DeLonge was a crucial part of the Nimitz gimbal go fast videos that came out and really took the media by storm, and the whole world just shocked us all to see this actual real footage of UAP from very well qualified pilots using the most highly sophisticated systems out there to record these events. Since then, however, we haven't heard much from To the Stars. I wanted to find out what's been going on, what are the recent developments, and what do we have to look forward to. I know, or they talked about some materials that they had been able to attain. I found out that those materials were from Linda Motenhow, also known as, I believe they were called Arts Parts at one point. But the scientific conclusions were interesting on that one, and we're going to cover that later. For now, what I want to do is kind of start back in 2017, kind of around the time we had this announcement from To the Stars Academy, and Joe Rogan interviews Tom DeLonge, and I find it really interesting. So let's go ahead and watch this. Hey everyone, I just want to say thanks for tuning in again. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. That really helps my channel to grow, and it helps me to know you're appreciating what I'm putting out there. Thank you so much for doing that, and enjoy this episode.
This is like real, not just that we're talking about it and we saw it on the news or we saw it on YouTube. It's like when you're alone in your bedroom in the middle of the night, you got to look around and go, who knows what can happen? And that's kind of where I've landed over the past few years. It's just like going, anything is possible.
So everyone knows this shit's all real, because right now they're just looking at a drawing and they're looking at this guy from the Skunk Works, you know, and just going, how the fuck are they going to build a machine that plays with time and plays with the fabric of space-time? And so we have to kind of educate people and say it's possible, it's possible. Exactly. There's an electromagnetic wave that is the foundation of everything, of all mass, of everything. Like some people call it 0-point energy, some people call it the vacuum energy, but like 1 inch of air could power the United States for like hundreds of years, kind of thing, or maybe more. It's not like splitting an atom. This is the power behind the atom. It's extraordinarily dangerous, but it's also what will turn that thing on, and it'll turn into a ball of light and just disappear. And I could show you a video of something doing that. That's actually on YouTube.
What Tom is referring to here is the anti-gravitational device that was once really highly touted on the To the Stars website, and how they were going to use some of the materials they had and some of the technology and know-how they have to build this anti-gravitic craft. Of course, he's talking about 0-point energy, which we've covered a little bit on earlier episodes of this show if you want to go back and check out an older video where we've talked about 0 point energy, essentially making a pretty bold statement here back on this Joe Rogan episode saying that they're going to produce this craft. On top of that, he goes on to show Joe Rogan and Jamie a video which is kind of questionable. He seems 100% certain that it's real. I tried to turn up the volume here so we could hear Joe Rogan whisper to Jamie a little bit. We'll see if we can kind of catch what he says.
And do your people get to?
They'll be able to see it. We'll put it up on the screen.
So what this is? Well, I don't really want to tell you what it is, but I want you to watch it. You can't hear me. Is this? That's not it. One more page. I'll find it for you. Just takes me a second. There's a bunch of this shit. This is the craft, by the way. That's in. Did you spell it right? Astro. That's why. Sorry. Astra.
Oh, Astro. Astro, not Astro.
Yeah.
If you're typing it at home.
That's all right. This is the Craft and Secret Machines book. That's all I'm going to say.
And this thing is floating in the air.
It'll take a few seconds till they turn on the engine.
Wow, that looks pretty badass.
Oh, wait. You can see little lights dancing around on the bottom. But I think this was leaked on purpose because the guy's making it just hard enough to see, moving the camera around in and out of focus.
Yeah, right? Like it's got like, he's barely focusing. Boy, that looks like a drone.
Well,
It looks small, too.
it's not. That's pretty big. I would think that one's about 40 feet.
Really?
Look, see the tail fins on the back? That's how you know it's not alien per se. It's built off, I think, technology that came from there, but, you know, they don't need vertical tail stabilizers.
What's that big light?
Okay, this is the engine. They turn it on. So right now they're accessing that energy I told you about. Now, and watch what happens. It's gone. There's a pilot in that.
If that was in a movie, I'd want my money back.
If that was in a movie, I'd want my money back. Ouch. So clearly, Joe Rogan not buying the footage. I gotta be honest, watching the footage, I mean, I got like definitely not a master's degree in Final Cut Pro, and I could probably make that footage happen with some pretty basic effects. But who knows? Sometimes the truth is right in front of our face, and it looks so crazy we don't even know. However, on this one, I gotta say, I'm with Rogan. I don't see it. It doesn't look like legitimate footage to me. But that is my internet educated opinion with no firsthand knowledge about any of this. So let's continue on here.
Everyone thinks it's alien, and that's not my belief.
So you think this is something along the lines of like when they had the stealth bomber program and they were
Absolutely.
experimenting with these things?
I tell people, like, a good way to look at this is, like, look at Syria. And Syria's in chaos because the United States and Russia are having a proxy war there. Now look at the Earth. It's the exact same thing. Different races are coming here, and they're trying to win and against
So there's
each
more
other.
than one
Oh,
race.
yeah.
How
Yeah,
many
this
different ones are-
universe we're talking about.
Right.
I don't know how many. I don't know.
But there's a bunch of different creatures and they all have the same sort of technology?
Yeah, and some are very human. Some look just like you and I.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah.
Not to jump on the Greer bandwagon here. Again, though, we hear it from pretty much anyone that runs in that Elizondo circle that we need to be afraid. There's some kind of threat. There's some kind of battle. There's some kind of enemy or something we don't understand, so it means it's a threat. It's almost like if you go back to my video on Brookings Report Institute, they said there would be times or reasons you would need to withhold information or maybe only let out certain bits of information. But the threat narrative is very real, and it seems to be a very predominant driving force for a pretty large part of this disclosure crew that's kind of out there right now. I just find that really interesting.
I don't know. I do know that there's connections to man, you won't even fucking believe it. I'll tell you that. You want to hear?
Please.
Atlantis.
Atlantis, the sunken city?
Yeah.
There's a connection?
There's a connection.
What's the connection?
That there's a very advanced group that left after a catastrophe and hung around in a small outpost here and throughout time would push civilization forward, and that's who the Greek gods were. So I'm sitting with this guy. He was like, not that long ago, was director of CIA, and he went on to be director of NSA. Okay.
Well, I think we can find his name.
Maybe. But right when I sat down and told him about the book, you know what he says to me?
What?
He goes, I didn't read much science fiction as a kid, but I read a lot about Greek mythology. The sixth biggest defense contractor in the world, at least they used to be six, is a company called Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC. Their headquarters are actually in San Diego. And in the front of the building, you have an obelisk coming out of a fake lake and two Atlantean on thrones, and they're both holding pyramids, and one says the past and one says the future. And they're 8 foot tall.
So this is the part where the lines start to get blurry, at least for me. To the Stars Academy is a art, science fiction, aerospace company. They have a lot of different outlets as far as different creative stuff that comes out. But what's interesting is it seems like they are capitalizing more on the art and less on the actual aerospace and science, because we've seen two very important, at least very important to that program, folks step away, and we've seen the company really focus on just entertainment and the occasional podcast, which we'll talk about a little more going forward. So stay tuned, because there's definitely some interesting stuff coming towards the end here.
Statues.
Does Tom talk about UFOs all the time?
He always did. We used to get loaded and just look out the bus window for what, and I used to do it with him as like, I don't know, it's kind of a bonding experience. It's like, it's really not something he just got into. From the day I fucking met him, he was obsessed with UFOs and aliens and was always very passionate about it. But nothing has changed. He's still, the other day I talked to him, he's like, I'm on the way to the fucking White House, bro. And I don't ask any questions. I just be like, as you should be, you know, whatever. Like, let's fucking go.
Because part of me was like, is this guy putting me on? Like, what is happening
He's
here?
dead ass.
Dead
He's
ass.
fucking dead ass.
Seemed
serious.
like it. And we would look at these videos that were so clearly horseshit. And he would be like, amazing, right? And I'd be like, what? So he's obsessed with all sorts of like hidden things, like not just UFOs, but Bigfoot too. And
conspiracy theories, politics, everything. Very, very passionate about.
Travis Barker seems like the coolest bandmate to have on Earth. Not only is he super chill, super open-minded, but can play the drums like nobody's business. I was a Blink fan. I guess once you're a Blink fan, you're always a Blink fan, right? But I saw them in my 20s with Bad Religion and Phoenix TX. That was a long time ago. I've probably aged myself. But they were a lot of fun. It's interesting to see. I love to see him getting that support from his bandmates. Go after what you're passionate about. Do what you feel is right. forget all the naysayers and just go after it.
Seems like everybody's mad at Tom DeLonge. A lot of his fans from his days with Blink 182 are still mad at him for turning his attention to UFOs. Others are mad at him for delaying his announcement originally planned for this summer. Tomorrow morning, the rock star will make good on his promises to reveal the names of government insiders who will be part of a team to boldly go where few have gone before.
These are real people, though, in real positions.
These are real people in real positions dealing with real threats.
Ugh. Once again, that threat narrative, dealing with real people, with, real clearances, real jobs, dealing with real threats. I don't know. Tell me what y'all think about that in the comments. How we keep kind of ending up back on this threat messaging when it comes to the Stars Academy.
I called it To the Stars. I created a company that can produce original science fiction stories that inspire, entertain, and galvanize thinking. I believe we're filling a major void in the content creation space. I sometimes call To the Stars a science fiction Disney, but for adults. A strategy was developed that I really think can achieve the impossible. You must first understand that the Department of Defense has a culture of secrecy, not out of disdain or distrust for its citizens, but because it's appropriate to protect the lives of its people, technologies, and methods.
This is obviously the To the Stars Academy announcement in 2017. It's just so strange to see a punk rocker who was super into the military-industrial complex, covering up a lot of secrets that we should know about back in the day, now kind of evolve into this guy that's saying, hey, there are secrets we need to protect. Now, is that disinformation? Is it what he believes are facts, but he was presented disinformation? Is that why we keep hearing about this threat thing? Or is the threat thing real and it's not disinformation? It's very confusing, and it's enough to really rack your brain. But I do notice To the Stars does go back to that a lot. Another thing we notice is how they keep hitting on this entertainment segment of it, as if entertainment is going to bring the enlightenment that we need to advance technology. I'm not sure I agree with that, but we'll see what they have to say about it here in just a moment. Let's check it out.
It's called To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. And we did this truthfully, as hard as it may be, for you to really understand, to define a future and not be victim to one. And that was the service that I offered. And that's also why I received a ticket to meet some very invisible, but also very important people. Our institution looks to build a perpetual funding machine that can continuously attack those three things: aerospace, science, and entertainment. Again, some important stories to tell, a need to learn more, and a plan to engineer the technology observed. This is why I am here. This is why they are here. We're going to bring it to the world. And we're going to show you today how we aim to achieve this. We have a plan to bring the unimaginable, the stuff of dreams, to the world. To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science aims to communicate historic events and forward-thinking ideas through motion picture, and include you on ongoing scientific discovery, and build an exotic craft with an energy source that can revolutionize the world.
This is where I get bummed out, because that's what I was so excited about, was this new technology that they were going to be developing, that we were really going to be able to see some of this advanced technology come to life. Unfortunately, that's not the way that it worked out. What happened is that after several rounds of funding, it looks like To the Stars wasn't able to reach a goal that they had of $30 million after almost 3 rounds of funding. And it appears that what they've done is completely change their focus to almost 100% on entertainment. In fact, we're going to look at something here I'd like to share with you. Now, if I go back, and this is the website back in 2020. Okay, you see there's a tool out there, the Wayback Machine. It's got 68 captures of this site. So if we go back, this is January 15, 2020 snapshot. You see, you come to the website and it looks like, this is going to have to do with aerospace, right? You got the Vault Virtual Analytic UAP Learning Tool. I mean, how cool is that? You click on that within the web archive and it takes you here to an investment page. Minimum investment, $350. Now, this was January 16, 2020. This was 3 years after the gimbal release video. This is January 2020. Okay, you kind of look around. This is the home page here. Like I said, this all looks like a legitimate company that's really focusing in on the UAP UFO stuff. We've got all kinds of stuff about the Nimitz, the Tic Tac, the executive report, the Pentagon UFO Study Archive, all kinds of great stuff. Stuff about the actual roles of the folks within the company from January 2020. But you see here, they're talking about the UAP learning tool, and that's really all they have on their about page. Now, let's go to the Stars Academy today, and this is really what I found most shocking. I go to the Stars Academy, and it looks like it's just a landing page for buying gear. And we'll probably get a pop-up here pretty soon. But this is, green hot sauce, red hot sauce, a couple of guitars, some books for sale, some hats for sale, some shirts for sale, some examples of their art on the website. It's really quite strange. So you actually have to kind of look around. Well, I don't want to shop. No. Brands. Well, we've got all these different brands now. Okay. News. Maybe I can find out. Oh, okay. So we've got essentially on this website 2 articles about the TTS analysis on the ORNL report and the ORNL and Aero Material Analysis update. The rest of it are news releases about the company, Tom DeLonge, and this movie that came out in 2023. I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to speak about it. What I find interesting in this report is if you really go through it, and they make it easy enough to download these pages and, copy paste and whatnot, or just, save them right to your drive if you want to. But what I find interesting is how Putoff and Eric Davis did the analysis on the actual materials, and they weren't able to bring in a third-party scientist because, according to the website, well, they were just too busy to come and analyze what could be this out-of-world stuff. Something that on Joe Rogan, Tom DeLonge stated was not from materials not even in the solar system. Well, if you actually read the report, you find out it could definitely be terrestrial, and it could definitely obviously is from the solar system if it could be terrestrial. Like I said, there's a video on YouTube you can find of Linda Moulton Howe talking about her kind of chain of custody with this material. To the Stars ended up buying it for, I think it was about $35,500. I believe is what it shows on the balance sheet, what they paid for the materials, and it turned out to be terrestrial. So not only that, they've decided on top of that, hey, you know what? Let's just go for this entertainment thing and focus less on aerospace. They lost a couple of really hard hitters as far as one of the head guys at Skunkworks, who really would have been kind of the only one that could have developed this kind of technology. All of that is kind of disappointing as someone who was really hoping for the best for this company. But let's continue watching here. Let's hope we have a happy ending.
I'm thrilled to be here and to be part of this team. I will start by providing a rationale for combining science and entertainment in a single company. What is the underlying unity of these distinct activities? There are two primary methods we use to learn about and understand the world. The first is through stories, and the second is rational inquiry. Albert Einstein identified the underlying unity of art and science when he said, quote, "The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious, is the source of all true art and science."
Christopher Mellon, I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining to you who he is. You can look him up online. You can decide for yourself whether you think he's a great person or a terrible person. I think it's really up to interpretation at this point, given the history of what he's been a part of. I think it's interesting, once again, but something that's going to cause anxiety in folks, which right off the bat tells you possible fear. Maybe it's something to be afraid of. The other thing is he's no longer with To the Stars Academy. He was one of the first to leave, and you're going to hear one of their current members talk about that here in just a moment. But he's no longer there, along with Lou Elizondo, who had to leave as well, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. According to Christopher Mellon, though, this whole thing about telling stories is an integral part of science and philosophy and being able to break down borders. So kind of addresses my concerns earlier about it being legitimate, but kind of doesn't. Like, I'm still not sure if I buy it or not. Let me know in the comments if you think it's necessary that we have sci-fi movies like Alien or something so that we can consider warp drives. A lot of folks will tell you Star Trek inspired quite a few things, and there's this whole nother level of Star Trek. And in fact, David Grush met George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell at a Star Trek conference. If that's not crazy, boy, what a crazy world. I guess we really are in the Matrix. Sometimes it feels that way. Let's continue on here.
And I kind of wanted to ask, what happened between you and Tom? Why did you drift apart?
Well, we didn't. He got intercepted by some folks who had sort of brainwashed him of the alien threat narrative, General McCaskill at Wright-Patterson and other people. And he got led by his nose down that primrose path. And then, of course, he had all kinds of dark players like Elizondo and Jim Semivan, who's CIA, and other people kind of circle around him. And I think he just got used and abused and then dumped, which I had predicted would happen. It was unfortunate. But the problem with having a little bit of knowledge in this area, it's very easy to get manipulated by these sort of professional counterintelligence operatives.
So thank you all for being here. I'm Lou, and I'm going to be trying to keep Tom on target with a nice little agenda we have. I'll be doing my best.
Eat? What does this mean? Does it mean eat?
I gotta start signing the books. No, I'm just
so we're supposed to keep you on track here, Tom. So let's get you started. And in the meantime, while we start signing some of these books, why don't you tell us a little bit what inspired you to write this book?
You know, a lot of people ask me where I got really excited about the subject of UFOs and when that started with me. It was junior high, and I don't know why. Just one day wanted to go out and start reading about this stuff and learn about this stuff. But the handing me books. I'll do the books from now on. Because you're stressing me out here. I would ask.
You got a schedule to keep.
Yeah,
okay. Now, I won't go into detail what happened with those fundings. The funding actually came through. It actually wound up getting rerouted to another organization because the language was vague. And so, therefore, we were forced to continue the program on minimal funds. Now, people say, well, the funding dries up, so does the organization and the program. That's not true. When you are given a mission, you are given an order to guard your post. You guard your post until you are relieved of that responsibility. And in the Department of Defense, there's always a paper trail. When you establish an organization, there's a paper trail. When you disestablish an organization, there's a paper trail. You won't find one for this program. So I think that's very important that people understand that the program never really went away. In October 4th, 2017, the rest is history. So let's go into a little bit about what ATIP is. ATIP evolved from OSAP. That is absolutely true. OSAP existed for a short period of time under another director to focus on the UAP-specific capabilities and concentrated on the what and how interrogatives.
But what came out of that, building my company To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, we really are building an aerospace company. We really are doing things that deal with access into space and what's out there and the science and engineering involved and telling the stories about things that are out there and their interaction with this planet and with people. And I'm really living what I was preaching back then. I'm really doing it. I didn't just sing about space. I'm building a company that really, brings all of that out there to everybody's mind and hopefully to their experience too. My job is to communicate it for people to understand it better. And then the job of others that are a part of To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, my company, is to make sure that for the first time since World War II, our elected leadership are briefed on these subjects. That we're so busy fighting each other on this planet, they're missing something that's dangerous and big. And I think there's a lot of good things that come from this as well. But we have to create those good things, which is, people coming together and working together on this subject. So some guy comes out and talks about life in the universe. You're like, thanks, guy. I get it.
Right.
But, I've been telling people for a couple of years, listen to what I'm saying. And then when I thought, if anything, I thought when people saw who was around me when we came out with To the Stars, and the head of the United States UFO program works for me now. And he was the head guy for Secretary of Defense Mattis. And he also worked with the Director of National Intelligence, Clapper. Up until about 24 months ago, he was running this program.
Again, we've got Tom DeLonge saying because of the company that he has surrounded himself with, that legitimizes any message, any theory, anything that he has to put forward. I'm not trying to be negative here at all. But those that tune in to stuff like my channel, you have probably gone down the rabbit hole, maybe not the rabbit hole, but have at least looked into the 2020 story. That was a story by Corey Good, I believe. And he would tell people that he spent 20 years in space as a slave, as a soldier, came back, was age regressed, and then carried on with his life. When he was under deposition, under oath, he decided to come clean and say, yes, that was all made up in his head, but during a state of meditation, whatever that means. The thing I worry about with To the Stars is blurring that line of science and science fiction. And it seems that as the years have progressed, it's been less about science and aerospace and more about fiction. And when we do talk about the conversation of NHI, some other intelligence, we're putting them in the category of dangerous and threatening. These are just things that I have noted in my research and even within these videos that I'd like to make my viewers aware of.
When I first met a bunch of people that were involved on this subject before I even knew Jim, I remember specifically, I was in one place and, there's a big wig I was talking to, and he goes, we don't ever look at that subject. We don't care about that subject. There's absolutely no evidence whatsoever that any of that is even real, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay, thanks. And then I left that person's company or that person's table and went right outside the door. And there's these other two guys that worked directly under him that said, we want to talk about this. And they talked about it for an hour, and it was like nothing classified. They can't go there, but it was just like some people are more open to it and some people aren't. But the people that are dealing directly with something that's classified, they're never going to even talk about it. I talked to the former head of the task force before it's in its current form, however that works. And I asked him, I said, what's the biggest change now that we were able to bring the UFO subject out into the mainstream? And he told me, he said, for the first time ever, we can talk about this in the halls of the Pentagon.
If these are military threats or even weather balloons or whatever, we owe it to our warfighters to make sure that they're safe and secure. So taking away the taboo has been incredibly important for me.
What was it that Tom was told that kept him up for 3 days?
Oh, well, I don't want to talk about that, but I remember, and one of the bigger things was just about me understanding the stakes of this, because you come into this and this kind of answers your question about like what keeps me up at night or what kept me up when I was discussing things, was not understanding the stakes, not really coming to grips with this being real. And that when I've talked about this as a threat, that's just my words, right? I mean, I would never know the way the government treats that. That's not my zone, obviously.
My observation here is that Tom is kind of going by a script. He mentions threat and then uses very vague terms about what exactly that means, other than they haven't really communicated with us and they've tinkered with us in the past and there was lost civilizations, so on and so forth. Again, all very vague, seems to tie in with all of the ufology stuff that's out there. And are we dealing with fact or are we dealing with science fiction? I just don't know anymore.
But for me, in my own personal research, if something's been here for a long period of time and it really is showing up in people's bedrooms or in front of an F-18 or on a petroglyph wall or in an ancient text down in the archives of the Vatican or whatever it might be, it's obviously doing something. And it's obviously having an influence. And it might only be an influence on where we end up as mankind, or it might be an influence to keep us suppressed in a weird way to where they can take advantage of something, who knows. But it's here for a reason, and it's not really being, forward about its intent. But we do know that we've been dealing with it for a long period of time. It's a different deal once it's like really real. It's not just reading it in a book and believing in it. And that's kind of what I came to with the whole UFO thing. It wasn't just like believing it. It was like, oh my God, this is real. But this is what I tell people. And I really believe this. I'm not speaking for Jim or the company. This is just my own personal thing. I have a feeling that when we really learn about consciousness and we really learn kind of what these things are, this phenomena is, I think we're going to, like I said earlier, we're going to merge this metaphysical consciousness type of science with normal science. And once it becomes all one, we might look at religions differently, but I think everyone's going to be able to keep the things they love, which is really not all the dogma and the stories that we argue about. But when it comes down to, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, or Godhead, your soul and the physical body, it's all the same three things. That Trinity thing is like kind of everywhere. It's all about you as a person with your connection to consciousness, us as a physical person with our connection to something bigger. And so I don't think people are going to be alienated.
I talked about that quite a bit on my last time travel episode. You can catch that by going back. I'll post a link to the video. But yes, telepathy, psionic, whatever that means or whatever that is, activity, it seems like it's this network that you can plug into, going all the way back and looking at some of the CIA declassified Project Gateway stuff. You can really see this is something that we took seriously and something that works. Whether you believe it works or not, there's proven cases of it working. So I do believe here that Tom DeLonge is onto something, that there's some kind of network that we're plugged into that, as we talked on our time travel show, maybe you can use this telepathy or telepathic network to send messages or manipulate or even move through time. It's really fascinating to think about. Tell me what you think about that down in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts.
Where do things go from now and here maybe now that Luis Elizondo and Chris Mellon aren't part of TTSA?
With those people in particular, when the pandemic hit, it really caused us as a young company to choose one lane rather than trying to do multiple lanes. Couldn't fund any more research projects or with new companies, new programs. And we were a new company with a new program. But where we had a ton of traction was in the entertainment part, where we already had products selling, we had movies coming, we had TV series coming. And so it just created an opportunity to focus the company and get everything really streamlined to grow quickly without trying to dilute ourselves in places where we can't compete with a Lockheed Martin or whatever. But we really wanted to get these things off the ground.
So there we pretty much have it. They could not afford to compete with these big aerospace programs, which is true when you look at the budgets and contracts that they get with our government being in the sometimes hundreds of billions of dollars, and decided to just focus on the entertainment aspect. Going back to the Corey Good story, that then gives them protection to kind of say whatever they want and say it's real and say it because they have the backing of the people they have the backing of, like Hal Puthoff still. And even though they've lost folks like Christopher Mellon and Lou Elizondo, they're still doing okay according to Tom DeLonge because they just can't afford to compete with those big contractors. And that's a bummer because that really was why I was paying attention to the Stars in the first place, was I wanted to see what they were going to do with this unknown advanced technology that we just haven't seen, that they haven't produced. And it's been, 8 years now.
Some of these early programs, some of which Hal is still chasing, some of which, like, we still have an open contract with the government on some of the material that we got. But I do know Chris is involved in a lot of things back in DC, specifically with trying to get this thing pressed through Congress and with oversight and the task force. And he's so deep in it, and gets him kind of away from the entertainment part, which it doesn't mix well with the government stuff. And Jim, it would be better for you to talk about some of this stuff.
I think Chris needed to go his own way, as with Lou. They wanted to pursue other things that weren't quote unquote entertainment focused. I get that completely, and they are doing. I think it's just an outstanding job. Both of them, I'm just huge fans. We're all huge fans of them.
In terms of the partnership between TTSA and the government, I didn't actually see this, but according to my friend Mick West, he says J.J. Abrams' UFO documentary episode 3 suggests TTSA might be part of a government disinformation program.
Can I just comment on that? First of all, that's rather insulting. It's insulting, not only to me and all the people that work for the government, what have you. You can't have a disinformation program in the government. It's illegal, and you cannot influence the population of the United States. Governments can't do that. It's called an operation, and you can't have that. It's not. We don't do that.
Did you hear that, everyone? You can't harm the public. You can't have an operation against the people, says the CIA guy. Have you heard of MK Ultra? That didn't harm anyone? Have you heard of governments all throughout the 60s, 70s, and 80s throughout the world being overthrown by special access CIA programs? But we wouldn't harm anyone. Take my word for it, says the ex-CIA guy.
I had lawyers all around me. I mean, you couldn't make a decision without making sure that you were right on the money. And we, CIA in particular, it's a great organization. I mean, made a lot of mistakes in the past, but by and large, it's a very, very straight-laced organization. You do not do anything that would in any way harm a U.S. citizen or the population in general. So that's bogus.
I mean, there's no way this guy believes this stuff, right? Because I'm sorry, this is complete bullshit. The CIA has harmed the public. It's on record. It's not a conspiracy theory. MK Ultra was a real program. And there's ties to the CIA maybe even messing with Manson. So this whole taking the high road thing kind of immediately discredits Jim Semivan in my book.
So talk about the government. Like, could they cover up something like this? Could they do it malevolently? As you're saying, the CIA is basically, let's just call it what it is. You're saying they're comprised of good people, good men and women, honest patriots.
Nobody listens. The government does not listen. The Congress doesn't listen, and the Senate doesn't listen until it happens. And when it happens, they jump up in the air, start pointing fingers.
Wow. I'm really kind of surprised at what I'm hearing, and I'm a little concerned, maybe a lot concerned, about the future of To the Stars at this point. What I've seen so far is a trajectory in a direction I didn't expect, into more entertainment and less actual fact about UAP, UFO, and future aerospace technologies. I think those that invested maybe even feel a little misled. And I hope that's not the case. I hope things are working out well. I'm not going to sit here and get into their financials, so I have taken a gander, and you can watch other YouTube videos about their financials. I don't think it's that serious yet, but it's a little concerning to kind of see the general direction they're headed in. Give me some hope here, Tom. Just a little bit of hope.
And love is what created the universe.
but let's just take that word love out and just say unified mind.
Yeah.
And so I think like what we're going to realize as we discover ways to supercharge our brains, we're going to start to see some of those dimensional realities all around us. It's the same thing that people, you know, a lot of times people that have wounds from alien abductions match wounds from demonic possession, where you have these things that are just out of our visual perception, but are kind of here, that can either fuck with us from a distance or create displacement craft and come over and fuck with us, you know, directly, you know.
Yeah.
Either way, it all looks to be the same thing that's talked about everywhere.
A couple of things as we wrap up. First, thanks for sticking this out. I can tell that you care about the To the Stars Academy, the future of it, and Tom DeLonge as well. And I am so glad that you're still here. Second, I hope that the future of To the Stars is not entertainment, but aerospace. I understand the concerns with cost, and I understand the concerns with competing with other contractors. How did you not know that was a thing going in, though? I think by trying to raise private money towards your aerospace program, that's going to cause an issue. Because $30 million, I don't even know if that covers the cost of a rocket, let alone an electrogravisional propulsion machine. I think what you needed, or what you do need, is a gigantic contract with the government. Now, maybe one of the reasons that we don't have that is something I read recently, which is that the material that had been being researched by To the Stars that we talked about earlier, that turns out could have been terrestrial, that was a contract they had with the U.S. Army. And in a statement that they released in 2021, they stated that as we shift to an entertainment focus, we are assessing the future of this program, the Army Materials Program, insofar as it relates to our future work with the U.S. Army and our public benefit mission. The public benefit to me is not campy sci-fi movies. I'm sure your movie was great, but I think the reason most people were interested in To the Stars was to go to the stars, right? It's in the name. We wanted to see this so-called science and groundbreaking technology that we were promised. And so far, in mid-2025, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Tell me what you think down in the comments section about the future of To the Stars, because I would love to know if I've missed something here. I really hope the best for Tom DeLonge and To the Stars, because they did inspire me, and I think a lot of people, to get into exploring this phenomena in the first place. So I will thank you for that, and I hope that the mission gets clear and it's more focused on our future technologies. Thank you for watching Living Umpqua again, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you can get updated on our next video release.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be